Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to welcome you to this evening's meeting of the Woodstock City Council. A few brief announcements before we get started this evening. First, the agenda for this evening will be shown on the monitors in the room. City of Woodstock operates under what's called a consent format. Consent format means that all items for action this evening will be considered under a single motion and a single vote. If a member of the City Council wishes to have an item removed for separate consideration and voting, they may do so. And if a member of the public wishes to request an item to be removed for separate consideration and voting, they may make that request, and if agreed to by a member of the Woodstock City Council, that item as well will be removed and considered separately. There's two opportunities for public comment this evening, the first being at the start of the meeting under floor discussion, public comment. I invite members of the podium to come forward to the podium in the center of the aisle. If they're willing to do so, state their name and address for purpose of the record, and feel free to make comments to the Woodstock City Council. Second opportunity is when we have items for action. We will have an opportunity for members of the public to make comment at that time as well. Any questions on those announcements before we get started? All right, hearing none, I'll go ahead and officially call to order this meeting of this January 21st meeting, 21st of 2025 meeting to order, and ask Jane to please call the roll.
Councilman Flynn.
Here.
Councilwoman McMahon.
Here.
Councilman Yearman.
Here.
Councilman Seegers.
Here.
Councilman Tebow. Councilwoman Ziemba.
Here.
Mayor Turner.
Here. Let the record reflect that 6 of the 7 members of the Woodstock City Council are present this evening. Jane, would you please verify that the agenda this evening is the same as the true and published agenda?
Yes, it is.
Thank you, Jane. That being the case, ladies and gentlemen of the council, the people's business is duly and appropriately before us. It is appropriate, I guess, that the first item that we cover under 2025 for the city of Woodstock is a proclamation, and it is a proclamation for Groundhog Day in Woodstock. So at this time, I would like Woodstock Willie and Rick Belaires and his entire team to join me at the podium on the side. Make it in. Got it. That's right. That's a good, George, that's a good entry right there. So it is once again that time of year, and that's a very special time of year for this city. And before I make the proclamation, I think it's very important to state not only is this important to us, but it also becomes almost accepted that this happens every year. And every year it's a huge event. Every year it gets bigger and bigger, and it continues to, put Woodstock on the map, and it continues to be just an incredibly fun time and an economic driver for us. And it happens every year, and it happens because of the people behind us here in blue. It happens because of Woodstock Willie. It happens because all of the volunteers that put their heart and soul into this throughout the year. And that is worth noting, because without those people, without these volunteers, it doesn't happen the way that it does. So I want to make sure that that's stated, because what you all do is incredibly valuable to the city. So my thanks, and you should all feel a great deal of pride in that, and know that the community appreciates that. So, and last year, I know you're going to top it this year. You've got probably some other A-list celebrity showing up this time in addition to Stephen Tobolowsky. So that's a great addition. So, and we'd love to have Tom again, but that was a one-time shot, and that was outstanding. So
he's warmer in Hawaii, right?
He is a lot warmer in Hawaii. So yes, I follow him on Facebook. He seems to be fairly content in Hawaii. So I don't know why he doesn't want to come back to the Midwest on February 2nd. Although tonight's giving him a reason probably not to. So with that, council proclamation without objection. Yes. We see that? Okay, thank you. Proclamation declaring February 2nd, 2025 Groundhog Day in the city of Woodstock. Whereas the motion picture Groundhog Day was filmed almost entirely in the city of Woodstock in 1992 and released in 1993. And whereas we will be celebrating the filming of the movie that put Woodstock, Illinois on the map, and whereas the annual commemoration celebrating the event known as Woodstock Groundhog Days began in 1995 with a prognostication and breakfast. And whereas Stephen Tobolewski, Needle-Nosed Ned, is returning again and again and again to be the official starter for the very first Groundhog Day 5K race and to officiate at the official prognostication on the Woodstock Square Mall on February 2nd. And whereas this year's celebrations will also include Theater 121 presenting Groundhog Day the Musical on the Opera House stage, the welcoming of Woodstock Willie Woodstock Willie the Groundhog at the new Old Courthouse Center, followed by movie trivia, a pub crawl, screenings of the movie at the Alpine Theater, and a drink to world peace. And whereas Bob Hudgens, location manager for the movie, is returning to lead the movie site walking tour. And whereas the annual commemoration will take place from Thursday, January 30th, 2025, through Sunday, February 2nd, 2025. And whereas the city of Woodstock is dedicated to doing things over and over until they are done right. Thank you. Whereas there is not much else going on outside at this time of year anyway, now therefore be it proclaimed that the City Council of the City of Woodstock, on behalf of all citizens of Woodstock, declares February 2nd, 2025 as Groundhog Day in the City of Woodstock. Approved and adopted by the City Council of the City of Woodstock, McHenry County, on the 21st day of January, 2025. Thank you all again for the work that you do, and I couldn't be happier to make this proclamation. So. Give it to you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you again.
Most of the Groundhog Day committee is here, and we enjoy putting it all together. But we couldn't do it without the support of the city, from the hotel tax funding to Danielle's marketing department, Maddie and Heather, to the police department, to Public Works. The rec department is involved this year with a couple of things. Woodstock Public Library involved. The whole city gets behind this, and again, we couldn't do it without the support of the city. This year we have more events than we've ever had before with, as you mentioned, Mayor, the Woodstock Backers Club putting on a 5K run past many of the places in the movie, and that's going to be great fun. They've already told me that more than half of the people who have signed up for it, and that's over 300 people, are from out of state. Out of state. Having Theater 121 doing Groundhog Day the Musical this year is, and with Groundhog Day being on the weekend, that's just magical. Now, Mayor, since I know you are fluent in Groundhogese, if you could just talk to Willie and warm it up a little bit before February 2nd. Yeah. We don't need this kind of weather for February 2nd. But
we've got a meeting on that tomorrow.
On behalf of the whole Groundhog Day committee, thank you very much.
You bet. Thank you. Squeeze everybody in a picture in front.
Wow, Lily got slender right there.
Many members before me.
Scrunched together.
Squish, squish.
I can see you guys are beautiful. I love the brand.
Excellent. Thank you all again.
And our infiltrator to the city council, Melissa, has something for each of you.
Thank you. Hey, goody. Oh, this is just an infiltrate. Adorable.
It's the magic word right now.
Here's the Woodstock, anyone?
Good for four-wheeler, anything.
Nicely done.
Too.
I like it.
And it comes with instructions of different ways to wear it.
I'm going to say less.
I don't pick them up.
I'm going to say less.
Okay, that's probably the case. Okay, the next item we have under floor discussion this evening is our two presentations. First is an update on Real Woodstock. So I will turn that over to Danielle, to you, to Heather.
Heather and Maddie
Okay.
are going to step up to the plate. Maddie's going to present as she is the most familiar.
Thank you. Yes, actually, I don't think Maddie has had the pleasure to speak with you since she was hired probably 18 months ago, and she is our marketing manager, and she lives and breathes Real Woodstock every day as part of her role here. And so I would love to turn over to her to share some insights with you, and I'll be here as well. And maybe this is real out there.
Well, as Heather just said, I'm Maddie. Nice to see everyone here today. Bitterly cold day. I'm Team No Shadow, for the record. Hoping for a really early spring. So everything on the slides today reflects the same in your report that council was given, just in horizontal landscape format. So yeah, I came on about 18 months ago with a really amazing foundation of Real Woodstock. And it's been really fun to jump into this. As you can see noted, new brand colors. So we did adopt the red from the city's new branding earlier this year to keep it cohesive, in line with the city branding, and also so it doesn't clash. It looks nice compared to next to the city logo. So just wanted to note that there. But if we go to the next slide, we'll jump right into it. So big part of this was some updates and improvements to the website. And one really exciting addition was itinerary section. So itineraries have allowed us to make kind of thematic, prepackaged ideas for visitors who come to realwoodstock.com and maybe are not super familiar with the town. And instead of them having to page through and kind of curate their own visit, there's already curated visits for them that they can either gain inspiration from, or it's a direct itinerary they can follow to a T. It does improve the user experience because it is featured on the homepage. You can go to the next slide, actually. So that's kind of a snapshot of what it looks like on our homepage. And it's scrolling, and we can select different featured ones to add there. So it's right at their fingertips as soon as they get to that homepage. And then from there, next slide. Once you click into that itinerary section, you can see all these tiles of the various itineraries. So you can scroll through and plan your trip in advance, going down to fall itineraries, spring, what have you. There's also the tagging feature, which you can kind of see on the right. So Groundhog's tag, Weekend Adventures tag, so they can kind of sort through that way. So it improves the user experience. Also, search engine optimization. There's a bunch of keywords embedded in the blog posts themselves in the copy there. So that's only boosting the way our website hits on Google and other search engines. So it's been really exciting to see that come alive. It was a project to get there, but we're happy to have it on our homepage for sure. Next slide. So the next thing we invested in was our events page. The events page has always ranked very highly on realwoodstock.com and continues to, and so we wanted to kind of invest more and bring it up to speed and up to industry standard for tourism destination marketing organizations. So one thing we did was we made it kind of a featured section on the homepage. You can go to the next slide. So that's a snapshot of what it looks like on our homepage. So we can select different featured events to plug up there, some key events, higher attended events, and rotate them out, and it scrolls. And then next slide. When you click on it, this is just kind of a horizontal snapshot, but it lays out more like a calendar. So it's a little, it's much better for user experience in that it is oriented much more like a calendar, so you can at a glance see what's upcoming, and then you can plug in on that left bar there. If you're coming May 30th to June 4th, you can put your exact dates in and see what's available during that time that you're here in Woodstock. And it also has keyword search and then the tagging again. So you can select, I want family events. If you clicked on the prognostication from the homepage and then clicked on the Groundhog Days tag, you would see everything that's tagged Groundhog Days. So improving that user experience once again with the events section. Next slide. And then you could see top pages that ranked in 2024. So there you go. Events are on both sections, last 90 days and 2024. 2024 is kind of a good representation of our key events. And then, of course, the food, shop, fun, all those pages rank high in there. Last 90 days, you can kind of see that it aligns more with the season. So winter itinerary was there, carriage rides, Squire on the Square ranked very highly. That was, very exciting and new to Woodstock. And then you can see top sources, Google, Datify. We had a campaign running last spring with them. People are coming from Facebook, and people are coming from city website. And then you can see that huge jump in active users, 246% increase in the last 18 months.
So say more about, briefly about what that represents in your mind. The active users. I mean, is that single users, or is it one person coming multiple times, but they're active and they're on the site? They may come once, in 2-3 weeks in a row, 2-3 days in a row.
Yeah, so it's the individual user kind of coming each of those times, the latter that you said. So seeing that huge increase, that's a good thing. People are returning, coming back and back again.
Is that a comparison year over year? Is it the 37,000 is over a 1-month period, all of 2024?
So from the beginning of the 18-month period, so July 1st of 2023.
Okay, matches up with the 18-month
December 31st
table that was in
of
here.
24. Yep.
Okay, I saw that too. Thank you.
Yep.
Maddie, I have a question for you.
Sure.
Because we're so in my wheelhouse. Like, this
I
is
know.
what I do. So I love all of this stuff. Remind me where we are in the SERP for Google and like industry standards. For example, if I was going to just go into Google and type in Groundhog Day, where does Real Woodstock rank on the SERP? Search engine results page.
Yeah. High. for
Yeah,
industry standards, but it could always use improvement, of course. But
Are we
high.
first page?
For Groundhog Day, Groundhog Day's committee actually ranks very well, their website, amazingly. So it's always kind of room for growth and something to consider. And we kind of look throughout the season too to see where we're ranking, where we're hitting, and with different search terms and keywords too. So, but overall, very high.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay. Because all of the SEO and what you're putting into the keywords and embedding all of that within the site
And that has certainly
does nothing but improve that, right?
Exactly.
So, yeah.
And that's kind of been on a rolling basis. So the events page was kind of a project first, and then itineraries. And so as we've kind of added one layer onto the next, it's improved kind of in line with that. So yeah, it's been awesome.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Next slide. And that's just a screen grab of our homepage currently. So with each kind of campaign, each season or event, we've had an image. And so this has been the image we've been using for Groundhog Day with that tagline, Rise and Shine, switching that out. And then the copy in the red bar there is very specific to Groundhog Day just because it's such a huge deal this time of year. But we've also kind of aligned that copy with kind of the theme and such with each campaign. So there was a holidays one and stuff like that. So next. So we'll jump into Facebook. You can actually go to the next slide. So the black bar on the left shows 18 months preceding the red bar on the right. So January 1st, 2022 to June 30th, 2023 versus July 2023 to December 31st, 2024. So on our Facebook reach, you can see 158% increase, 466% increase in visits, and 19% increase in follows. So continuously increasing there, which is awesome to see.
And Maddie, to what do you attribute that to? Because, I mean, to see these kind of percentage jumps throughout an 18-month period is extremely significant. So I don't want you to just gloss over this because this is huge to get this kind of reach, right? So to what do you attribute this specifically for social, for Facebook?
Yeah, consistent posting that is aligned with a brand voice and message, things that resonate. We've also played with boosted ads as well with Facebook.
Okay.
So, and I can say with Facebook that 75% of the numbers reflected here are organic and 25% are paid.
That's huge. I mean, for those of us in the room that aren't in marketing, like that is huge. That is incredibly significant that you're not paying for this kind of publicity, right? To get people to talk about it, to share, to like, to interact with the posts. And I think the thing that you said first and foremost was consistency, right? To kind of like do it with frequency and intention and purpose. It's going to drive nothing but additional traffic. And we can't, let go of this kind of free press, right? Because that's really what social media is now. It's free press. And to be able to do it without having to pay, very significant. So job well done. I mean, it's awesome.
Even though the numbers up there, you're like, well, the 19 doesn't compare that favorably to the 158 and 466. In fact, for a relatively mature brand, okay, Real Woodstock's been around a while, for us to continue to grow our followers at almost a 20% clip is a pretty big deal. I mean, it's a very big deal.
In an 18-month period, especially.
in an 18-month
or
period.
Compared to.
Right. To go from 15 to now almost 18,000 people are choosing to let us put stuff in front of them.
Exactly.
That's a big deal. All right. That's the equivalent to the 80s of volunteering for junk mail.
Yeah.
Okay. But it's better than junk mail because I'm choosing to see it. I'm choosing to see something.
We also inherited through Woodstock a very engaged audience too on Facebook, so that has certainly helped and just kind of a great building block to kind of jump from even further. So it's awesome.
Okay.
Next slide. So on Instagram, that's a screen grab of some posts we have up right now. Next slide. And so similarly, 8% increase in reach, 78% increase in visits, 60% increase in follows. And I'll actually kind of touch on that in a couple more slides on why we think there's increases on Instagram.
When did we start pushing Instagram? Because we haven't been pushing it as long. I think it's been about 2 years or so, isn't it?
Right before COVID.
Was it?
I think is
Okay,
when we
so a little
started.
longer.
And
No,
the
we hadn't
base,
engaged in the beginning.
the base numbers are quite a bit smaller than Facebook. So, right? So it's easier to get skewed percentage increases. Like 3,000 follows, little over 3,000 follows. We were at 18,000 or
Yeah, it's younger in its lifespan. So Facebook was started probably in 2015, 2015-ish, I think was when.
For real Woodstock? Yes, around
started,
15.
2015?
Yeah.
So, and Instagram was probably started in maybe 19, I think.
Probably it was before I got there.
Yeah. I think.
And Maddie, what
18, maybe end of 18. So it's got a few years on
I
it.
seem to think we also put more of an effort into Instagram. We had it in 19. I just don't remember us pushing
No,
it that
was
much.
more a cut and paste. And so Maddie's approach, I think, to Instagram's very unique from Facebook and has a different audience, and it just has different content that really connects with people. So I think they've been more focused on trying to really branch out into Instagram, and she'll explain a little bit about how next.
Yes, I will.
before you get to the how, could I ask you? I don't know if I'm asking nationally or just in marketing groups. What percent of the market does Instagram have compared to Facebook? I guess is what I'm really asking. So,
I suppose I can't say off the top of my head, but I'd be happy to look into that and let you know.
it's not okay.
Yeah.
was
I will say
curious.
the demographics skew much younger on Instagram, and kind of like what Danielle was saying, you may follow us on Facebook and you may follow us also on Instagram, but the way that people interact with those platforms is different, and so the segmentation of those two audiences is really key
You
in
may not
growing.
be able to do a true comparison as to what is one versus the other. They're not even in the same family. They're not even fruit. I mean, they're different.
Okay.
Those are different things. Even though they're all social media, Instagram is decidedly different than Facebook and who it reaches and how it works. Other than it's on your phone and it conveys information, but it's still, in my opinion, kind of different.
Okay.
So says the guy who's on Facebook but not on Instagram. So
You're not the Instagram demographic.
Just leave that one.
Well, maybe you should get on Instagram.
Wow. It's okay.
You're missing out, Mary Turner.
And it's not the age. It's just, it's
the age.
if you think about it, it's
Trust me,
videos
there's a
and it's
birthday card in there
images
that's-
and it's
Visual
constant
medium.
contact more so on Instagram, whereas
Visual.
Facebook is like you're still catching up with family. It's just a different use, So, and
More
they've really
mature.
connected. No, not more mature.
That's all right. Say it. You already said it.
But what she's going to talk about next is exciting.
All right. Go ahead, Maddie.
Next slide, please.
Way to segue.
So new has been influencer partnerships. So we jumped totally into this. Other DMOs or destination marketing organizations have done this. So we're like, why not? Let's see how it goes. And we've seen great success with it. So you can go to the next slide. This is our influencers that have visited in 2024. And so some have visited for different events and some have visited for just kind of seasonal weekends in Woodstock. And so you can see that we have very high views on all of them and they have lots of followers. The cool part about this is they'll put a reel on Instagram, a video, and they'll collaborate with us. So it's going right in front of all of our followers, but it's also going in front of all of their followers. And because Instagram is a platform where we have very engaged audiences, 45,000 of their followers are really seeing this. So it's very exciting for us. And also the earned media value is huge here. So we're paying an influencer, micro-influencer, content creator a certain amount. But so second example down, 108,000 views. To pay for 180,000 views would cost us a lot more than paying this content creator to come to Woodstock, have a great experience, and show that off to their followers. So the earned media value is really key there.
Yeah, I saw a few of those, and I was like, wow. And I'm not even deep into this, but I'm like, I know this is a big deal. Meaning, and this is a great channel for you all to have opened. You know, it responds to trends, responds to audiences we're trying to reach. You know, and they were the ones I saw. They were effective. They were great. They were well done in their style in that way. I thought it was fantastic to see it.
And even anecdotally, I know Heather and I will go on Reels at night and, oh, there's a cool restaurant featured here, and I go to the restaurant. So they have a lot of sway, really, with the people that are engaging with those Reels. So it's been fun to see.
Yeah, because there's a level of authenticity coming from a person that's coming in to visit and have an experience that is unlike people that live here or work here. So when they're telling the message and amplifying what we already know and love, it comes off with a different feel, and they get to tell it in their own way, their type of storytelling. Instagram is a visual medium, so it's very, very different than Facebook. Things are told in visual, very small little tidbits, and this is just, I love this so much. The influencer telling our brand story is, I think, just amazing. So
Absolutely.
Well done.
And when we contract with them too, I kind of lay out a framework and some key things. I want you to go here, maybe explore this, but I really kind of leave it up to them so they are having that authentic experience, and that's why people resonate so well with it. So
Yeah,
it's
great.
been really fun to see from our end too. So
Just curious, what is the cost to these influencers?
yeah, it varies kind of depending on their following and their reach, but anywhere from like $500 to $1,000, $2,000 on average. So some are very specific to the Chicagoland area on that list, and some are more regional. So we kind of adapted that to target audiences per campaign.
Yeah, but to get 108,000 or 340,000 views and exposures for $500 or $1,000, which then convert into some into followers, and they become permanent, viewers of what's going on here. That's huge.
Another tidbit too is you can go on and see the comments, and like in live, in real time, you're seeing people say, "Oh, I drive past Woodstock all the time. I've just never gone to this part of Woodstock," or "Oh my gosh, I'm totally going to go there next weekend. I had no idea." So you're seeing that feedback right in front of us. So it's exciting for us.
Love it.
Awesome. Next slide. So this is very new, but I wanted to add it in there because we're excited by this. So we did start a Pinterest recently because it has really great improvements for search engine optimization. So for those of you not on Pinterest, it's a very visual platform, not so much social media that you're sharing with friends, but you're maybe planning, especially trips. And so we're putting, our content in front of people that are planning their trips. And then we can tie it back to itineraries, so it's really great for linking back to that. And the biggest thing too is that pins have really long lifespan. So when you're seeing an Instagram post or a Facebook post, you see it, you engage with it, or you don't, you scroll by, and then it kind of just disappears, goes into the void unless someone engages with it maybe again recently, and then it's kind of gone forever. Whereas with Pinterest, it's very cyclical. The pins never go away. They might have a big jump, and then a year later they could jump up again. So this is something we're excited about, and other DMOs have done this too. So I actually learned this with Heather at a tourism conference and decided to implement it. So we're excited to see more results from that.
What tourism conference? Just curious.
I think this one was the Upper Midwest Regional tourism conference. Yeah, so that one was a multi-state kind of Upper Midwest region, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Illinois. Yeah. Next slide. And then back to Instagram, we've done a large push for short-form video content. So that's the Reels, essentially kind of TikToks on Instagram. The algorithm loves Reels. People love seeing short videos. People don't want to read. They just want to see a clip. And it kind of engages with the audience differently. Instead of a still photo, it's showing people like a pan of an area so they know exactly what to expect when they get there or what that experience looks like, and showing a different side of Woodstock from that. And I can say our views are very good, especially compared to other local competitors. So this has been really fun to delve into. Next slide. And then we've worked on some new retail merchandise. So we're on a consignment agreement with the Chamber at the Visitor Center, and we've launched some new shirts. So it's 6 o'clock somewhere, nod to Groundhog Day. And then Cass and Benton, Johnson and Van Buren, Streets in the Square. And then there's some stickers, which you might not be able to see in the picture very well, but I believe they were on your desks not terribly long ago. So we have those going as well. And so we're excited to kind of develop that more. And on the back, behind the collar, there is the Real Woodstock logo. So that the branding is still there, but kind of, just using the brand font and colors and just fun t-shirts.
Isn't this a little bit of Chicago Cubbish here? Aren't we Clark and Adderson, Waveland, and Sheffield? Yes?
A little inspired.
They were not the first to do it either.
Okay.
Yeah, lots of tourism destinations have done it.
Okay.
So,
Well,
yeah.
and they also do the 120 shirts too, or only certain people get it. It'll say 120 because that used to be the afternoon start time all the time. So
See?
that's what I saw when I saw the
Well, it's akin to
6
that.
o'clock somewhere.
I did not even know that. So
I thought that was great. That was clever
learned
as
something
well.
new.
20 on Fridays.
Huh? Right.
220 on
220,
Fridays.
yeah. Or 305.
I'm surprised the Cardinal fan's paying attention to that.
Oh, God. Great. That's going to get on video. That's going to get picked up. That's great. I'm kidding.
Next
Yes,
slide.
I do pay attention.
We've also done more brand activations with experiences. So the selfie frame we've brought to many chamber events, and this one's at City Band in the Square during our ice cream social. We're giving away stickers there too. And then we did yard signs at the MCYSA tournaments, and excited to kind of delve more into having a presence there as well. And then we also did a 360 photo booth at Lighting of the Square, and we had Lighting of the Square event branding and the Real Woodstock branding on that as well. So we got it's kind of blurry because they're little like GIFs, little clips, boomerangs. So it's just a screen grab, but the people walked away with those clips to share on their own, and then we also have those. So they're leaving with our branding on it, which is awesome. So. And then we've jumped into transit advertising as well. So the one with the Santa and the Groundhog is at platform signs along our line. So one at Cary and one at Palatine for kind of a co-opt holiday Groundhog run for several weeks. And then next slide. We also bought train car cards, is what they call them. So those little posters running along the floor of the upper level inside the Metro cars. There were 50 of them. They were also on our line, Union Pacific Northwest. So this is Groundhog themed, where Timeless Holiday Charm meets the occasional Groundhog. QR code to our website, and that's a captive audience you have sitting on trains. So we're excited to get that imagery in front of them there.
Is there a reason that we choose our line? I mean, we're already heading this way. Is there a reason we're not choosing another line?
I think the theory behind it was that if you live in Palatine but you're commuting to Chicago and you see this in front of you, maybe you'll take the line the other way. So it's kind of easier sell to get people who already have the convenience of being close to that line and bringing them down the opposite way.
Okay. Thank you.
And then just a few billboards. We've done a lot of billboards, but just kind of showing some different, showing the branding in different designs and different campaigns. So Mexican Independence Day, we did in Rockford and Lake Geneva. We did Food Truck Festival in Huntley, Crystal Lake, and Algonquin. This is this year's Groundhog Days billboard in McHenry, Cary, and Volo. And we've kind of spread those out depending on each campaign. Next slide. And then we've done print advertisements as well. So a buy in Chicago Tribune, road trip section. Real Woodstock had done the fun section before, but we decided to try out the road trip section instead. So we also did an advertorial, which was like a little article, Chicago Tribune, and then with that imagery of your next day trip. Next slide. And Enjoy Illinois magazine, we bought for spring and summer this year, and then also for the fall and winter. And then Chamber Guide, so keeping that brand going throughout print. Next slide.
And can I also add that you guys also did an ad on the back of the Groundhog
Yes, we did.
brochure? That there's 15,000 of those printed this year, which is the highest number we've printed. They are asked for all year round by visitors, residents, everything. So they are out there. And it's a nice, beautiful ad on the back that's all Real Woodstock branded on the back of the brochure.
Thank you, Melissa, for adding that. Yeah, it's kind of just a snapshot of our printed ads, but that's a big one for us too. Absolutely.
No, we will not put an ad.
So then this year we purchased Placer AI. And so Placer AI, I'm just going to read it verbatim because I want to make this clear, but it uses data science to generate foot traffic analytics to analyze visitation patterns. And so this is a huge tool for tourism marketing. We've been excited to kind of delve into this and explore with it. And so we've used it to kind of identify target audiences, who's coming, the effects of campaigns, and what are potential markets as well. So with this first chart here, it's essentially like a heat map of our trade area. So it's showing where people are coming in relation to Woodstock, where they're visiting from. So obviously the red, orange, yellow is kind of where more of them are coming, and then green, and then blue.
So this is people that we're targeting for advertising, or this is people that actually come here?
Yes, the latter, people who have visited.
Okay.
Next slide. And I should say, too, these are all for the 18-month period, including that last one.
So how do we know they've been here? Or AI knows and I should just leave it at that?
Yeah, it's cellular data, so it pings to cell phones.
Is this different from the type from Datafy? Are you guys no longer using Datafy?
We're not using Datafy anymore. We're using Placer, yeah. But similar concept, yes. And then we have some visitation insights. So this kind of shows visit trends. And you can see spikes for some key events we have. So Mexican Independence Day, Lighting of the Square, Groundhog Day. We saw a big jump for St. Patrick's Day, Food Truck Festival, Pride Fest, and then back into Mexican Independence Day, Lighting of the Square. Those are all kind of the peaks. Next slide. And more visitation insights of daily visits. So Saturdays are great days, but Fridays, Sundays rank high, and then even the middle of the week as well. Next slide. And then we can also get demographic insights from Placer. So household income, who's coming here, what's their average or median incomes. Next slide. Ethnicity for demographic insights as well. And next slide. And then we can see results. So this is the past 18 months, and this shows variance in visitation. So anything that is that darker blue moving upward was an increase in visitation. And then anything that was below the line is a decrease. And so I just kind of noted what I suspected may have been a little decrease. So school ending or school starting, Memorial Day, holidays. But overall, all kind of jumping up. So that's really awesome to see.
Just a quick question on this, because it's cell phone data. So it's tracking anyone coming in. So if somebody has a job here, they come here and leave, it tracks them as well as just not tourists and what have you. It's pretty much people activity in and out.
It actually takes the group who they identify as people who work here or live here and separates it from visitors. So they have a general idea of, resident location, and I know.
It's pretty scary.
So they're able to kind of segment that out.
And you can actually pinpoint specific locations, so you can pull just the Opera House out. You can widen the range. It can be the square. It could be a business address. So it can be very finite, detailed, or broader.
Do we have an ability to share this, or I mean, with merchants, businesses, or is that are we restricted by the by Placer, by the company, as to how we disseminate it and use it?
I can share, so like in my event campaign reports, I can say we had X amount of people on this event day, and this was the peak time, and this is where they came from. And so I have been able to share that as far as campaign wrap-up reports for marketing campaigns. Okay. Yeah.
But as far as sharing it, would businesses gain by knowing trends related to, visits? Those peaks in particular, that occurred on it's measuring daily a visit by month. No, these
Each
are
bar is a
individual days. The sample you have here is individual days, right? Over two. Oh no, I'm sorry.
It's individual weeks.
Each bar represents a week.
Say that again.
Each bar represents a week.
A week. Okay, got it. Over an 18-month period.
Yes, correct.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, there's a lot of untapped capability and potential with this. It comes down to resources. You can lose days in this program doing things. And so, we also have to be cautious what we provide for one. We have to be able to provide for all. So I think there's just resource restrictions in how much we're even fully utilizing it yet. And we're continuing to try to expand that and even share that with economic development and, the chamber and like immediate partners right now. And then, there could potentially be some monetary value in sharing on a broader range too.
but we haven't gotten that far in exploring that.
And I wasn't expecting it. I was just kind of
Yeah.
conjecturing, is there, and I get it that you can sit here and endlessly say, "Well, let's dive into this, let's
fascinating.
dive into this, dive into this."
You could lose weeks of staff
Oh,
time.
yeah.
Yeah, so we don't want to,
Easily.
we don't want to do that. But much in the same way that you're gaining, insight slowly into what's going on as we begin to uncover, things that may be valuable globally, shared with everybody, with all the downtown merchants or Route 47 merchants or whomever, to say, okay, here's what we're seeing, okay? And just, if we produced a report that showed that or something. But again, down the road thinking.
Well, it's also something I think we're looking at from an economic development perspective and sharing with developers and, being able to just share even when we're going out for leases for the courthouse and things like that, to be able to share that kind of data with people to tell them where folks are coming from and the quantity and volume that we're seeing in visitors.
Yes, Heather.
I would also say we have talked even about rec, like what's the park usage and how can we incorporate some of our departments into, making some decisions or insights into the entirety.
Okay, like that. Thank you.
What's the cost of signing up for this service? Just curious.
It's $20,000 a year.
I don't know, does that surprise you? Or does that?
No,
No, I don't. That doesn't surprise me, and it doesn't bother me.
It's a powerful tool for data, driving decisions and reflecting in campaigns, especially for tourism. So it's been fun. Next slide. And then this one just kind of shows we've done a lot of campaign spending in Rockford and kind of that more populated area of McHenry County, southeast corner. So increases in visitation from those areas. So that's kind of showing, hey, this is working. Next slide. And with that, I want to say thank you for your ongoing support, of course. And at this time, if there's any questions too, I'm happy to help, or we can go back to any slides that you have questions on.
Council, any questions for Maddie?
Great information.
Okay. Fantastic presentation. Okay. The growth of not just the brand, but the function and the way that we're using it to glean insight as to how we manage the city, what potential we have for driving economics, economic activity, tourism activity, understanding the nature of, how can we be better at what we do. It's just extraordinary. I mean, where we went from a brand 10 years ago in 2015, with just the concept and idea that, I will always admit my bias because I was part of the team that, that started that process. But all the things we've done, meaning transitioning even through different partners and new people, new ideas, skewing it down to, different audiences that it needs to reach. I mean, this has evolved. This has evolved and grown in an appropriate way that is on par with the most, sophisticated marketing, things that happen out there. And so it's not excessively expensive. It's highly valuable. It gives us information and helps us make better decisions. And it drives ultimately, in my opinion, economic activity, quality of life. So this is, I think you're nailing it. I think you guys are absolutely nailing it. And it is amazing the things, that knowledge we have and the things we can do with it. So Maddie, Heather, phenomenal job. Danielle, to you and your team, phenomenal job.
Thank you, Mayor.
Yeah, a couple of questions. Does Real Woodstock have its own line item in our budget?
Yes,
It does.
Well,
Okay.
it's in the marketing department.
It's in the
It's
market.
in the marketing department's budget, but it does have a line item,
It does.
yes.
It does. Okay, that was number one. Number two is where I think this could be the most valuable. Absolutely, is in economic development. Our residents, we want more manufacturers, more businesses, more employment. Our residents want more restaurants, more opportunities, more alternatives. To me, it seems like this would be the tool. If I was sitting on a fence as to whether I wanted to invest in Woodstock or not, Maddie, you giving me a round of this, I'd be all in. I think, that's.
Thank you.
In other words, I think that's where the value. It's good for us making decisions. It's hard to monetize the value of us making decisions. But if we can spur economic development with this data, now you're ringing bells.
So I think, and another way maybe of saying that is that if I'm a business looking to come in somewhere and, as part of my engagement with Jessica, and with the city and with leadership on where do I want to locate XYZ service or manufacturer or whatever, if I see that city is doing something like this, even if you give me a 10-minute, 5-minute blurb, let me show you what we're doing here and who we are as a city, and how we're trying to run ourselves, I think that convinces people, guys that are not on Instagram or Facebook, but still control purse strings of the business. And I say that part tongue in cheek, but that's true, because you blow them away with looking at something like this. So whether it's that, or whether it's a retailer or whatever it is, I think the impact this has of showing off who we are, I think has tremendous value. So, yeah. Excellent job. Yes, Rick Blair's.
I would just like to say that the Groundhog Day Committee,
You need him up front, Jane?
What's that?
Need him up at the mic?
No, I know his voice and I can
Okay.
hear him. Thank you.
Right.
we are volunteers and have day jobs and only so much time and many of the technical ability to do what Real Woodstock does. The promotion that you, the city, through Real Woodstock, give to Groundhog Day is in large part responsible for the growth we've seen.
Oh, thank you. Well, I think that indeed is the case. And
Their work has promoted it.
it's good. And I think the evolution of Real Woodstock, we went from an outside entity that did an incredible job of launching the airplane. John Harrison, A5, top-notch work. And we evolved the brand, evolved our partnerships, and evolved with the things that we're doing, and even bringing it back inside the city, which originally the concept was keep it out. Well, then we bring it in. Okay, you add cost, a little bit of cost, you offset what you were paying out is roughly a net zero at the end of the day, but it still added things in here. But the synergy, the what it did for us is exactly as you described for Groundhog Day, because I do think it's driven. Now, you guys have done an incredible job of making it a great event. You continue to get celebrities and people in here that make it unique each year. But I think the partnership with the city and what's going on the marketing side and with stuff like this just makes it even better than it might have ever been. So, yes, Tom. And if I don't get people at the dais, though, come up to the dais or come up to the thing for me. I would love to hear your comment, and my clerk loves it when people are at the
really good job.
are at the podium.
Yeah, so to make it real in a bottom line way, I buy properties, I renovate properties, and I sell them. Oftentimes, I will use space, for example, the Groundhog Day 5K that ends at the lumberyard, right, that I own. And I'm involved pretty heavily with the backers to be a part of that. And I get a lot of pats on the back, well, you're such a nice guy. But that's not really why I'm doing it. I mean, I want to do it because it's a good thing to do, but it's good business. Mm-hmm. Because look at what's happening. When I sell a property, I just sold one in like a week. Not because I'm a good salesman, but because people are coming from out of Woodstock to purchase properties. And it's not a tough business. And what makes it amazing is, and why I've always invested in Woodstock, is not just because my kids go to school here and for 1,000 reasons why everyone should, but also from a business standpoint. As a businessman, these types of things help me, right? You can't capture that. But you can capture a person who keeps spending money here and buys property here and renovates properties here and brings people from outside of Woodstock to live here. And when they come here, they're excited because of the things they've seen. They're excited because they see this groundhog type of activity. They're excited because they see the amazing things that are going on all summer long, the music, what's going on in the square. I just bought a place on Hayward 5 minutes from the square. I didn't buy it because I'm a nice guy and I'm trying to get a family in there. Yes, that's part of it, right? But I'm doing it because it's good business. And when people come in here and they're looking at properties, the house I just bought was probably 15% more valuable because of its space in relation to where it sits, in relation to the square, and in relation to the schools, right? Out here where the square is, I know that it's a tough thing because a lot of people on the east side say, we wish we could get across 47 easier and but we are working on that. And it is going to come to fruition, and there will be crosswalks at some point. So there's a lot of good things that are going to come together. But just from a business standpoint, when I can put up a property and sell it in 2 weeks, it allows me to take money and reinvest it into Woodstock and to renovate another building. And you never capture these things. No one's going to capture these things in relation to this website and to the traffic and to all of the things that we're trying to do to bring together that equate to a smart place to do business. And it's very hard to measure that. So oftentimes, when I hear and I see a presentation like this and I look at the data, people like me are reaping the benefit of it. And so people like me need to say that more often, including me. Anyway, just want to say
Thank you,
job.
Tom.
Yeah.
I appreciate those comments. Bob?
Appreciate your input on that, Tom. I 100% agree with you. If we could accelerate this strong enough and fast enough, I like the idea of monetizing it. If I'm trying to sell a property here, I might be willing to pay a fraction of a percent, because unless my realtor's providing it, Rick. If we can monetize it, that helps the budgetary process. When we're scraping for dollars.
Yep. And not a bad idea to think how we can do that. Some folks might say we monetize it by the sales tax and property taxes that we pay to the city as well. So, but let's just set that as a concept idea, and it's it depends on how we find value with it. So, all right, Maddie, anything else?
No, nothing to add.
Okay.
I have one other quick
yes,
question.
Melissa.
What is the amount we put into Real Woodstock now?
140,000 is what was budgeted for this current fiscal year.
And that's covering our pacer, that's covering our staff, it's covering everything.
That doesn't cover staff. That covers just advertising
Okay.
dollars.
So what is the final amount that we put into Real Woodstock? Covering staff, covering our advertising, covering our...
I'd have to pull the budget out. I don't know that.
I only have the Real Woodstock budget.
I mean, it's Maddie's salary,
probably.
let's say 200, 220.
Yeah,
25.
but even that, in the grand scheme of things, we're paying $225,000.
Yep.
And Tom has mentioned the return. We can give you the numbers for who come to Pride, who come to Groundhog, who come to all that stuff. And at the end of the day, people will gripe that we're spending money on marketing, but that marketing is turning over in more places than just visitors. Those visitors are spending money. Those visitors are falling in love with Woodstock. They're buying property. They are
Correct.
upkeeping. They are so
Correct. Placer AI will continue to grow and be able to give us more data. We can tell overnight stays if that increases, day trips, how many times they visit, those kinds of things. There are some industry and national standards of how much a person spends when they travel like that, that we could glean some monetary value from. But a lot of, the question comes up like, well, what revenue are you generating? And the revenue isn't going to the city. And that's really the thing, right? It's not necessarily coming to us. It's going to the businesses, hopefully. And that's the intent of it, is to drive that revenue to our business community and eventually attract people to want to live here, which then helps us with property taxes and things like that. And I think you've had some people here, even over the past year, some people who were here for Pride who said they moved here because of it, So I think that's where you have to, it's so deep and it spiders out and it stretches into so many little places, sales tax, all those things. So we've seen a growth in EAV that, over the past 3 years, that's pretty significant, and it can all be contributing to that for sure.
All right, Maddie. Final thank you very much
you.
for
Thank you
for
all.
everything. Heather,
I just want to thank Heather too. I mean, Heather's done a phenomenal job with her marketing team this past year in really doing professional development, making sure they're, in touch with all the industry standards that are out there, networking, doing all those things, and it's really paying off.
Yes, absolutely, and we can see that. Heather, thank you very much. All right.
What a good segue.
Well, that takes us to the next item under floor discussion, which is also a presentation, which is an update on the Woodstock downtown development plan and a 2025 progress report. So very glad to turn it over to Jessica Erickson, and terrific report in the packet. Enjoyed looking at that. So look forward to hearing what you have to highlight and say about it. So the floor is yours.
Thank you, and good evening, Mayor Turner and council members. That is certainly a tough act to follow. I've worked for many cities, and I can say this is an asset that I have not had access to in other places much larger than this. So
Really?
it's much
Because you do come
appreciated.
from, you have great experience elsewhere. You
So,
don't
yeah.
have not seen anything else
Not
similar
to
to
this
that?
extent.
Okay.
No. Outside, like external DMOs, yes, but as a resource and asset held within the city, this is unlike anything I've ever seen before. So. All right, so thank you for giving me the time. Thank you for the opportunity to present to you some of the highlights of the Downtown Development Progress Report. As Mayor Turner mentioned, the entire report was included in your packet for this evening, so my presentation will just be high level and I assure you brief. The city adopted its current downtown development plan in 2019, and the purpose of this progress report is to provide an assessment of the progress that's been made towards the goals and objectives that were established in that plan. Next slide. For context, the map on this slide, as well as in the report that was in your packet, is what was considered to be the study area for the 2019 downtown development plan. So where you see things throughout the report that maybe you're like, that's not downtown, it's because this is the study area that was established in that 2019 plan, so it reaches out, I think, further than what many people generally accept as being the downtown district. Next slide. The 2019 plan established 4 core objectives: strengthening the civic and cultural heart of Woodstock downtown, residential growth, strengthening the central business district, and preserving historic character. I don't need to tell you all that there have been many significant achievements to celebrate in the last 5 years relative to all of these core objectives. From the courthouse renovations to the ongoing renovations of our Opera House, the addition of the MCC Catalyst campus to our downtown, the incredible work of Real Woodstock, the development of the Woodstock Square apartments, significant investments in infrastructure throughout the downtown and in particular in the square, the announcement of the Calhoun Street Hotel, as well as other major restoration and adaptive reuse projects throughout our downtown. Next slide. And the city continues to make ongoing investments in our downtown through the wayfinding plan that is being implemented today, as well as ongoing and continued investments in infrastructure to support business and cultural activity within the district. Updated zoning, we currently have an RFP out, or maybe I think RFP out to update our UDO, as well as ongoing arts, culture, community, and other events within the district. Next slide. You are also all very familiar, all too familiar, with the unique set of challenges that we've had to face and continue to face since 2019. The evolving retail landscape and the advent of e-commerce that was accelerated exponentially by the COVID-19 pandemic that has completely changed the retail landscape in our downtown and downtowns across the country. Shifts in tourism and local destination appeal, higher expectations for what people want to see and experience when they go to a destination, coupled with heightened competition as our neighbors and others in the region and across the country make significant investments in either their established downtowns or establishing downtowns where maybe none existed before. Certainly the economic pressures that we've experienced and the impacts on our small businesses that are the heart of our downtown, everything from inflation to supply chain disruptions, rising interest rates and labor costs, all of which continue on into today, and have also impacted construction. So rising costs of construction and the costs of capital associated with new development and redevelopment in our strategic development sites. Housing affordability and shifts in residential demand. This is not unique to Woodstock. This is not unique to Illinois. In fact, I think we're on the cusp of experiencing, I just came from one of the most expensive housing markets in the country, and we're on the cusp, I think, of what other parts of the country have seen relative to the challenge and the crisis of housing affordability, as well as how demands in housing needs, wants, and desires of our residents have shifted. Next slide. And then the COVID-19 pandemic itself had a unique influence on expectations for destinations, and that a lot more people during the pandemic and following the pandemic have placed higher emphasis on enjoying outdoor spaces, and so have higher demands on public outdoor spaces and a higher desire to experience public outdoor spaces in places like Woodstock. We've also learned some lessons along the way. We believe we've learned the lesson that there is added value to specialized downtown planning expertise, so engaging the expertise of urban design and long-range planning into our future planning efforts. We've learned that we may need to broaden our approach to development partnerships, that we may need to take a look at how we are more targeted and proactive in identifying partners for development sites that not just can do a development on the site, but that have the expertise and the wherewithal to do the development that we would like to see on those sites. And I think we've learned a lesson about maximizing strategic use of incentives and really looking at, if we're making an investment of public dollars into a project, what are we getting in return? Next slide. So some future opportunities that we've identified, and I want to be clear, this is a progress report of a plan that was adopted in 2019, so not intended to be a new plan, but in assessing where we've been and where we've come since 2019, identified some pretty clear opportunities for Woodstock and our future planning efforts. One of those is strategic site activation. So in addition to identifying sites throughout, not just our downtown, but throughout the city that are ripe for development or redevelopment, but then activating those sites in terms of identifying what are the hurdles between where those sites are today and where they need to be in order for them to be development ready, and then bringing those sites out to market and not just waiting for the market to come to them. Expanding residential density, that was a high priority within the 2019 development plan. I think that's a higher priority today given the challenges of housing affordability and housing demand. Strengthening our central business district, including branding downtown Woodstock as a hub for entrepreneurship and employment growth, which will increase daytime population within our downtown and truly make our downtown a place where people live, work, play, and shop. Enhancing public spaces and connectivity. Our downtown should be an asset for our entire community, which means it must be accessible to our entire community through a variety of modalities. And then continue to grow our tourism efforts. I think the return that we just heard from Real Woodstock is evidence enough that as we continue to grow that, we can expect to see increasing returns. Next slide. Leveraging alternative financing and funding tools. There are some financing and funding tools out there that we have not historically leveraged. I am not saying that we're going to go out and establish districts or service areas tomorrow, but certainly something that I think we should be looking at and considering as we consider how do we finance the future of our downtown. And again, those can be anything from business improvement districts, public-private partnerships, special service areas. And then greater cohesion with citywide plans. Our comprehensive plan should be the core of all future planning, and there should be integration between our downtown plan and our comprehensive plan, and all future sub-area and potential corridor plans should be rooted in our comprehensive plan, so that our planning is consistent over time and across the city. And also increasing cross-department collaboration in those planning efforts. Next slide. And so our next immediate steps are, we have initiated a new downtown master plan. The original plan was intended to be a 10 to 15-year plan, but given the unprecedented shifts in our economy, social structure, and all of the things that have changed relatively quickly, relatively unexpectedly, we believe that now is the time to update and initiate a new downtown master plan. And as I mentioned, using specialized expertise, we've put out an RFP to hire a consultant to help us with that plan. That was published on January 7th. Proposals are due on January 31st, and we hope to bring a professional services agreement to you on February 18th of this year to move forward with that plan. In the meantime, we are continuing our efforts to expand mixed use and residential development opportunities, specifically starting with the die-cast site. We're finalizing an RFE request for expression of interest document that will go out to market next week and will be my almost singular focus, to the best of my ability, singular focus once that's out to the market. And then ongoing, continuing to support our small business retention and attraction efforts within the downtown, enhancing those downtown public spaces, pursuing funding for infrastructure and capital projects, we just submitted a number of projects to R1 to be included in the SEDS plan. Increasing marketing and tourist initiatives, one more mention of real Woodstock, as well as all of the marketing efforts that the city has in place, and advancing our historic preservation efforts to ensure that as we continue to grow and develop our downtown, we maintain the aesthetic and the history that we've all come to love about this community. And that's all I have from a presentation perspective. Happy to answer any questions relative to the presentation or the entire report. I know there's a lot more in there than what I just covered in this presentation.
Great, thank you, Jessica. Council, I'll turn it over to you for questions or comments.
Very good.
Amazing, comprehensive.
I read every page of the packet, so
Oh, good.
I'm well.
Little nighttime reading.
No, it was fine. It was interesting.
It's very interesting.
So, Jessica, I thought this update was extraordinarily well done. Okay, and the assessment, commentary, future steps were spot on. I'm thrilled that you're in this role because of your inherent skill sets and experience, but also because of what you bring from other experiences with other communities. Okay, and you have hit the ground running. This shows great direction here, and to be frank, the work that you do every day as economic development director couldn't be more critical for us as a community. All right, I mean we continue to make it a priority, and we continue to hit these not self-inflicted potholes. They're just potholes that are on the current journey of trying to develop in this city, this county, this state at this time. Okay, and so I love that you're continuing to look for ways, looking for at assessment of ways that we're doing things, both in the past and then going forward. I concur that, yep, this was a 10-year plan, and that's out the door because 2019 is eons ago, in every way, shape, and form. So it absolutely does need to be updated. But it's not just an update, it's then put into actions, and that's what I loved about reading this too, are, actions and directions that you're guiding here. And I made a couple, the note that you said, or you made a comment, I'll paraphrase, you're not waiting for developers to come to you. You've got to go out and get those developers. And I would love to, I want to see that. I love hearing that. So put that into practice. And I know you and I'd spoken as it related to diecast and the RFIE expression, no, EI. But that is precisely what we need, is to go out and find developers that and entice those developers that are high quality, that are real, and are going to come in, with great ideas. And so I'm thrilled that you're taking that step. And the alternative funding tools, I think the environment of, no tolerance for property tax increases, and none of us up here have that. I know the public doesn't. And yet we have needs still. So, okay, how do we do that? And so those alternative approaches, yeah, I think they warrant looking at, okay? Because things, in order to do cool things, sometimes it costs money. And we're going to make sure that it's worth doing. We're going to make sure that it's done efficiently. And then we'll take a critical assessment whether we should take that step or not. But I love that you're willing to consider that, and that we're taking a look at that. But overall, great update to the or great assessment to the plan, and I look forward to the update. Yes, Bosh.
I would like to commend Jessica, your ability in despite the changing landscape with the whole the Amazon type retail business. In spite of that, in spite of the fact that we had the COVID experience, which changed a lot of people's movements around it, I think it's more important for the city of Woodstock now, more important than it's ever been, to have somebody of your character and quality. And so I'd also like to tip my hat to Roscoe, Paul, Danielle, anyone who Christina, whoever was involved in interviewing you. I think you're going to be wonderful for the city, and this is exactly what we need for the challenges we're dealing with right now. So I appreciate you being here.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you,
Natalie.
Councilmember.
Question for you. Can you just dive into a little bit the process to do the RFEI and that approach versus what has been done in the past, just for general knowledge of people who may not know specifically the RFEI approach is different than what we've done in the past. And so what is it and why did you decide to kind of use that angle?
It is, yes, thank you. And I'm only anecdotally familiar with what's been done in the past and have looked at some of the documentation of past proposals and presentations. And it feels like there's kind of been an awareness of certain sites and opportunities in Woodstock, maybe on a regional level. And, through our networks, folks have become aware, development groups have become aware of different opportunities here, and they've approached us, and we've kind of taken that at face value and moved forward with those opportunities, as opposed to what we're looking at doing with the RFEI and ultimately RFP process is taking an RFEI, which will be a document request for expression of interest, that is really a marketing tool and a business development tool. It's a tangible thing that we can take out to the market to say, here's an opportunity that we have in Woodstock that we think you should consider investing in. And the big difference is that we're identifying development partners or potential development partners where what we've decided our vision as a community for this particular site is what they do. This is their expertise. This is what they do, whether it be across the region or across the country. And we also know, based on their background experience and other developments that we're familiar with, that they have the wherewithal to do it, meaning they have the financial wherewithal to do it. One of the things we also talk about is maximizing the return on investment for the incentives that we utilize for future development. And that's part of it. It's looking at not does this particular developer need our resources in order to do a development, but will our resources help them overbuild that to our heart's desire? And that's really the difference between a development that is being subsidized by our incentives versus a development that is being elevated by the investment in incentives that we offer to that development. And so that process is, so we'll go out to market, get those expressions of interest, and then have conversations with those developers that have expressed interest. One of the questions we'll be asking them is, what might prevent you from pursuing this opportunity? So that when we actually develop an RFP, that RFP also recognizes realistic market conditions, that we're not going out and asking for something that's above and beyond what the market can bear. And that makes it more highly likely that developers that have those expertise and that wherewithal to do those developments are going to respond to that RFP because they recognize that we've put some effort into a realistic opportunity for them.
Yeah, awesome. So very holistic, very proactive approach versus sort of a let's see what comes to us. We're
Sure.
going out and seeking out the information and finding partners that make sense in the market that we're in, and then using that data and feedback to inform the RFP process.
Absolutely.
Love
yes.
it.
Yep.
Amazing.
Okay. Melissa.
Mine's a little bit more focused, I guess. You've got on the ongoing initiatives, the railroad yard. That's not going to be considered downtown, correct? Because that's going to be far enough out. Is that right? But benefit to downtown you have listed here. One of the environmental advantages to downtown Woodstock is going to be reducing the train idling in Crystal Lake. How is that benefiting us? Because now they're idling here. Does that make sense? On page 22 of your packet.
Yes, thank you for the question. It's a question that I'll have to ask because that was information that was provided to us from Metra Rail Yard in terms of their pitch to us of the advantages of the rail yard development here. So valid point, and but that was language that we took from them in terms of all of the benefits of them bringing the rail yard here. So
maybe we
I will-
look a little deeper into
I
what
will
they're giving
inquire.
us.
Yes, thank you.
But adding on to that, having the rail yard, increasing the number of rail trains and stuff like that, how is that going? Are you taking that into account as how that will affect downtown? We're going to have double the number of trains crossing. I still want that pursue to, no train horns in town type of thing. I know there's been going back and forth on that. It'll be good to have more, but at the same time it's not. So I just want to keep that on the forefront of everybody is, when you're not able to get across town because you're waiting for 12 more trains a day or something like that. Just how is that going to affect our downtown plan?
Thank you for that question. And we actually included traffic and multimodal transit, not just in and out of the city, but getting people throughout the city as part of our downtown master plan RFP, and not just in terms of how people are getting around downtown, but how people are getting in and out of downtown from other parts of the city as well as other parts of the region. So hopefully we'll get some. We are looking at that. We are taking that into consideration as part of our future downtown planning efforts, which is also part of why we wanted to make sure that we were getting some professional expertise. And so we just had a pre-proposal conference call with the firms that intend to bid on our downtown master plan RFP. We had responses from over 40 firms. 25 of them issued an intent to bid, and some of those firms are talking about teaming because of the mix of expertise that they can bring to the table and the variety of things that we've asked for in our downtown master plan. And so some of those firms have some expertise in transportation management.
Council, any other questions or comments for Jessica? All right, Jessica, outstanding. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, Council, that takes us to the next item under floor discussion this evening, which is public comment. At this time, I invite members of the public who wish to make comments to the Woodstock City Council on any items not on this evening's agenda may come to the podium in the middle of the room. If they're willing to do so, may state their name and address for purpose of the record, and make their comments to the Woodstock City Council. Second opportunity, members of the public to come forward under floor discussion. Third and final opportunity, members of the public to come forward under floor discussion, public comment. All right, hearing no requests for public comment, I'll turn to members of council, ask if you have any comments under floor discussion. Council. Tom.
Just a quick note, it kind of goes to all this marketing and everything we've been doing. I was at one of my landscape suppliers in Volo earlier this week picking up some product, and one of the other people behind the desk just happened to hear it. Oh, you're from Woodstock. Have you seen the square? And just went on and on about it. And then this person over here jumped in and said, yeah, and I took my kids to the Santa Hut. And another person, all of a sudden, all production stopped in the office, and everyone was talking about their experiences in Woodstock. There was probably 4 or 5 different people from behind the counter, and not one of them lives anywhere near Woodstock. They're all Ingleside, Volo, Grays Lake, all out that area. So it just kind of flows back to what you guys were doing. I thought it was kind of funny. My sales rep walked down and said, Nerman, what the hell are you doing?
You're an ambassador.
So, I mean, it was just kind of a kudos to everybody. So.
Great comment. Thank you, Tom. Yes, Melissa.
I have one, and it's kind of playing into what Tom said. I officiated a wedding this weekend on a venue on the square, or near the square kind of thing, and everything stopped at 7 o'clock. I kind of said, hey, watch outside, and people just, the DJ stopped, everybody just stopped, and they all gathered at the windows, watched the light show. Maybe I've missed it, but was there any social saying, hey, show at 7 p.m. or something? Yeah, that was a mistake. Get that one out there next year when you're doing it, because people are we're here, we didn't even know. I'm no, really, 7 o'clock, you got to stop and watch. And the whole room, 100 plus people gathered at the window and were watching. So just kudos to making that happen.
Yeah, thank you. It is a great idea, and it really showcases the square. So, and it's cool to see people talk about it. It has a buzz. Council, any other comments under floor discussion?
I have a quick comment.
Yes.
I don't know if it just felt like we had an unusually longer gap from like the last meeting to this meeting than last year.
There was an
extra
additional
week?
week in December.
So I just want to
Staff,
say,
staff calls that a bonus week.
Yes, we do.
Someone council liked it too.
it just seemed long and not good or bad, but I just wanted to say it's so nice to see everybody, and it's just nice. It just feels good to be back. So, hello everybody, and it's nice to see you all. That's
Great.
it.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Natalie.
Right?
Council, any other
Yeah.
comments under floor discussion? All right, hearing none, that takes us to the next item on our agenda, which is the consent calendar. Consent calendar consists of all items A through D5. Is there a motion for concurrence?
So moved.
Motion by Councilman Flynn. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilwoman McMahon. There's a motion for concurrence on the consent calendar. Turn to members of council and ask if you have any items that you wish to remove for separate consideration and voting.
No.
Second opportunity, members of council, to remove an item for separate consideration and voting.
D2 mostly for discussion.
D2 removed at the request of Councilman Neerman.
Question, comment?
Probably vote.
Not question comments yet, but, I mean, do you,
No, I'm yes.
you want to remove it for separate consideration?
Yeah.
Okay. Council, any other items you wish to remove for separate consideration and voting? Okay, hearing no other requests by members of council for items to be removed, I'll turn to members of the public and ask if you have any items that you wish to request to be removed for separate consideration and voting tonight. Item D2 has been removed. Public, second opportunity for members of public for an item to be removed. Third and final opportunity, members of public. Hearing no further requests from members of public, the consent calendar is therefore affirmed. It consists of all items A through D5 with the exception of D2, which has been removed for separate consideration and voting. I will now turn to members of council, ask if you have any questions or comments for the items that remain on the consent calendar. Council.
Comment for D1?
Okay, D1 for Melissa. Council, any other items for question or comments?
Comment for D3.
Comment D3, Councilman Flynn. Turn to members of council. Any other items for questions or comments? Hearing none, turn to members of public. Any members of public wish to have make comments or questions on any of the items that remain on the consent calendar? Members of public. Final opportunity, members of public, to make questions, ask for questions or comments on any items that remain. All right. We'll go ahead and turn to request for question or comment on item D1. Melissa.
So my comment is, I'm glad to see this come before us for a change because I think it's sorry, a little foggy. One, Tom, thank you for all the effort that you're putting into Woodstock. That was beyond an eyesore for a very long time. So seeing it as it is now is wonderful, but then taking the initiative to change the zoning to make it more agreeable to what we have and what we're working for and what that downtown plan looks like. I just want to thank you for the efforts and just the initiative that you take with everything in here. So thank you. That was my comment.
Great.
Mutual. Very likewise, and thank you guys all for showing up today, -3. No, really, thank you for your time. It's much appreciated, and I know you don't hear it much, but thank you so much for coming in and sitting here and spending your night taking care of business like this.
Great. Thank you, Tom. Melissa, thank you for the comment as well. And I echo, thank you for your investment, continued investment, Tom. Any other questions or comments on D1, Council? All right. That takes us to the next item for question or comments, D3. Darren.
I just want to say I'm happy to see this on the consent agenda for tonight, and I love the idea. I think a few years ago when we had an opportunity to go down together, 2 or 3 years, they were 2 separate businesses. The daughter was doing her kind of own thing and everything. It's really neat to see them coming together because they're both like really pretty impressive people. So those of you that get a chance to go down, you're going to be able to see them in action, and it is it's amazing. Money well spent, and I think that they've served us very well.
Thank you, Darren. I echo those comments 100%. Council, any other questions or comments on D3? All right. Final opportunity, members of the public. Any questions or comments on items that remain on the consent calendar? All right. Hearing no more further questions or comments, we have a motion for approval of the consent calendar consisting of all items A through D5 with the exception of D2. Motion by Councilman Flynn and a second by Councilwoman McMahon. Any questions? It is a motion to approve. Any questions on the motion before us, Council? Any questions on the motion before us, members of the public? Hearing none, James, please call the roll on the motion before us.
Councilwoman McMahon.
Yes.
Councilman Neerman.
Yes.
Councilman Segers.
Yes.
Councilwoman Ziemba.
Yes.
Councilman Flynn.
Yes.
Mayor Turner.
Yes. Those items all pass unanimously in accordance with the staff report. That takes us to the item that was removed for separate consideration and voting, which is item D2, Ordinance Eminent Domain 101 to 109 South Jefferson Street, removed at the request of Councilman Neerman. Tom.
Well, just before I want to go forward with this, I want to make sure we've done everything we can to negotiate purchase of this property. I go back and forth, and I've talked to quite a few different people on this issue, and everyone's kind of on the same fence where we are. If the man doesn't want to sell his property, he doesn't have to sell his property, so he's not selling it, so I feel like we're forcing him into it. I don't always necessarily, it looks like good optics on our end. I know the end result here would be great for the city. We want the hotel. We want that whole development to happen. But I just kind of have to know that we've done everything we can and made every realistic offer. And if we're offering them, what, five?
I'm gonna do something unusual and pause you for a second before I lose you two. I failed to recognize the agreement. I should have made a comment about the negotiated agreement that we just completed, and I know the amount of work that goes into that, so it is entirely appropriate for me to stop and recognize the work that you all did in negotiating with our employees and coming to agreement that we can all work with and live with and thrive with. So thank you for the efforts on that. I know it's a multi-month thing. My thanks to you. My thanks to the represented employees and for all of us coming together. So I wanted to catch you before I lost you, okay? Thank you. Tom, sorry about that.
No,
but
no problem.
I wanted to do that.
Absolutely well worth it. I just want to make sure, I know we had the appraisal by Harrison and it was worth this much money. I just don't want the city to look like the big bully
So
knocking somebody over to take their property.
and so that's a
concern.
It's a fair comment. So a couple other context things to put around this. Eminent domain is a very infrequently used thing and reluctantly used thing, at least traditionally for the city of Woodstock, right, Roscoe?
Yes.
We do not go there.
Handful of times.
A handful of
24
times
years.
in decades,
Yes.
right? Upon
Yes.
decades. And it does not, let's be clear of this too, giving the staff the authority to begin eminent domain process does not preclude coming to an agreement for the property at all. Okay, it does not. And in fact, outreach has been occurring for months. Okay, and with some engagement, but lessening and no movement, and even in a way that was, for lack of a better word, I'll say standoffish, maybe, meaning that there was no engagement, not even responsiveness to the outreach. So then we as a city have to decide, and governments across the United States at every level, okay, whether it's small municipalities, counties, states, federal, have to make a decision in what they're charged to do in managing a city, managing a project, managing a public goal, okay, that you make a decision about whether eminent domain is appropriate and necessary, because you don't want to come across as the bully. But at the same time, if you've got something that is believed to be in the public good, okay, that fulfills an objective of the city, then you also have a responsibility to the rest of the residents to say, okay, if this is going to benefit us, and one thing is standing in the way, and it's precluding what parties would agree to as a reasonable purchase price, we then have to decide whether that's something we want to go forward with. And it is not the intent to appear as a bully. It is not to overuse this tool in any way, shape, or form. We, in fact, reached out end of last week, okay, after Roscoe and I had some conversations about this situation. Reach out was done through our attorney to their attorney to attempt to, to avoid this, okay? That is still possible. I want to make sure everybody's clear. We can still have conversations. And in fact, conversations through Ruth occurred as late as 5:45 p.m. today. Correct, Ruth?
I think it was 5:05. I didn't
5:05,
see it till
okay.
5:45.
So we can still do that. All right, we absolutely can. So the question you're asking yourself tonight is, on this particular item, is this project, meaning the hotel, and the need to maintain parking in the city, is it appropriate to enter into either a negotiated agreement or potentially eminent domain in order to advance what we're trying to do at the city after months of steps that we've taken in order to try to get a situation resolved?
And I understand that. And if it was like a drainage situation where it's stopping a bunch of houses from flooding, we had to take this property to make a retention pond work, that's a little bit more of a clear issue. My concern is, like, if we took the lumberyard property and said, Tom, we want this, and he was at X price and we're at this price, and it's not happening, we go in with eminent domain.
So we can't
Has
take
he
it.
offered back? Has he offered back a counteroffer at all?
So Roscoe, comment on
The
to the extent
property
you can-
actually
Are
been listed
in
for
public
sale?
session to talk about negotiations between the parties. I can assure you at the administration level, our preferred approach is a negotiated settlement here to get this resolved. You have to realize, even with council authorizing eminent domain tonight, it's still, if we were to go all in on eminent domain 18 months before we would conclude with this, there's going to be many discussions held between us and the property owner prior to that to try to reach some sort of resolution to bring this back to council, to get your authority. If we do come to a number that we can agree on, we are going to have to bring it back to council for your authority to move forward with that. So there have been things going on. I don't necessarily know that it's good for us to be talking about that in
If I
open
could,
session.
if I could jump in, I want to remind you, this is under, the council agreed to a non-disclosure agreement for the course of negotiations, so we can't really discuss in open session the details of the negotiation beyond what you've had. That's fair to the seller, to the property owner.
So so Ruth, let me ask you a procedure question. So we cannot make the decision on eminent domain in any way, shape, or form in an executive session. Any decision we make on this question before us, this item, has to be done and will be done in open session.
Absolutely,
Okay.
right, but this, yes.
But the ability to discuss contract purchase price or parameters is something that is allowed under executive
In
session.
closed session, and to discuss the seller's or potential seller's response.
Okay.
Could also, right, it's not fair to them to discuss their negotiating posture in open session.
So while it's not common, it is allowed under Illinois state law for us to go into an executive session to discuss the parameters if we chose to, either this evening or at an upcoming meeting. Correct?
Correct?
Okay. So.
Can we do that right now?
So Ruth, speak to the ability to.
You can at any time during the course of this meeting go into closed session.
Okay.
And then return to open session and vote as long as the public knows what we're doing.
Okay.
Unlike, let me just say for people not familiar with it, unlike everything else under the Open Meetings Act, agendas require that the public be on notice of what's on there. But executive session is an exception to that, and you don't have to have that on the agenda if you choose.
Okay. Would it be appropriate or necessary to act on this item first, or is it possible to go into executive session with having this item and then re-entering?
Absolutely, you can do it now because you would just, it'd be the course of your discussions on this item.
Okay. So, and it's my belief that since because of the non-disclosure agreement, which must be honored by us as a city, and because of the contractual nature of the sale and purchase of, in this case, potential purchase of real property, I think it is appropriate for us to enter into an executive session at this time to discuss the purchase of real property under the Open Meetings Act 5 ILCS 120/2C5. Ruth, do you see any issues from a legal or procedural perspective with doing that?
I do not. I will say, just as a, since there's people here, there's also nothing that prevents you as a council from agreeing to sort of, if you can all agree and there are no objections from anyone present, move this to the end and finish the rest of your agenda. And then tackle that so people don't have to, who are here, don't have to wait. But that's up to you. That's not required.
Okay.
You could go
So
to a break right now.
We could move it to the end of the meeting.
Unless, and you, with the understanding there may be action on this item when you return.
Still could be action on the
Yeah,
item.
yeah, yeah.
Yes, Tom.
I don't feel we need to go into executive session now. I just want to make sure we're doing everything we can in our due diligence so we're not the bully next door.
That's always a subjective opinion, but it is my belief that we have done everything we can, and that there still is the opportunity for a negotiated agreement, even if this were to pass. If we even were to pass it, that there's still an opportunity to enter into a negotiated approach. And let me be clear, that's actually my preference as a council member and as mayor. It would be my preference that we don't go through some of the legal costs and the time delay of eminent domain. I'd prefer to see it as an agreed upon negotiated purchase as well. And there may be, well, I can't speak to the potential seller or property owner in this case. I'll just say from the city's perspective, it would be our preference to do that, strong preference. But eminent domain has to remain a last resort option, in my opinion.
So
Yes,
question, this
Melissa.
might be more for Roscoe. If we were to approve authorizing you to proceed, how does that look? Because it is an 18-month process. Like, we just...
Sure, you have to make a final and best offer to them.
Okay.
And then, assuming they reject that offer, then you would start the eminent domain process. We would work with the city attorney. They put them on notice. There are appraisals that have to be done. It has to be taken to the courts. A judge ultimately is going to have to decide. We don't have a concept called quick take because you have to get that from the state. Where in the case of quick take, we would actually get the deed to the property relatively quickly in the process. But we would have to put aside money in escrow ahead of time to compensate them for that. So this is going to be a more drawn-out, assuming we have to go there, which there's nothing that says we can't reach some sort of agreement within the next month, within the next 6 months, whatever that may be. Our preference, obviously, is to get this resolved and agreed to as quickly as possible because we feel like by having this agreement, having the city take ownership of the property, we can start beginning design of a new parking lot and maybe even get it under construction. And you have to also take that into account as well, that the longer this process takes and the longer we can't come to some resolution is the longer that we have to deal with the fact we don't have parking on that area of the square.
And we've been doing negotiations since July of 2024?
We have been doing negotiations for quite a while, yes.
So over 6 months already. Okay.
And I trust what's in the public domain, which means what's in the staff report in the packet is very clear. Despite verbal and written communications, the owner has not accepted an offer, has not provided a counteroffer supported by an appraisal, and has not engaged in meaningful negotiations. These circumstances indicate an impasse. We're at an impasse. So if this is one of the levers that we can use, and that's up for discussion right now, then it's one of the levers. But this is in the public domain, what's in the packet. So, I mean, there's obviously good faith effort that's been put forward, and it has not been effective. So
He doesn't have to sell. There's no law that says he has to sell to you. or to the government.
That's correct.
That's, so just because he's not responding back, it's not good faith because he's not selling it.
So
That's
that
where I
is
have
the
an issue.
that is the philosophical side of eminent domain, which says that so if one property owner, that owned an acre where Interstate 90 goes right now, said I don't want to sell, okay, yet the people of the United States, the state of Illinois said, you know what, we really need this thing here, okay, then that was potential, or that was an example. I don't know of a specific one of it, but that's the purpose of eminent domain. It should not be used haphazardly, and we are not doing that in this instance. But the reality is that we've had interaction, but no progress, and the interaction has been intermittent. And in my opinion, as a council member, I think that given what we're trying to do in the square and on the east side there with the hotel development and the need for parking, and given where the appraisal, this isn't our number. This is an independent third party's number that has said, here's what the appraisal is, and that would be a fair market value for it. And so I'm comfortable with the use of eminent domain when an impasse is reached and there's a public good or a public need, and infrequent. I don't think it's something we should use frequently.
And there was a time he had that lot for sale. It's not currently for sale, but
I don't know if he's ever put it up for sale, the current owner.
he hasn't. Okay,
I don't know.
I was just curious.
That's where I struggle with it. I mean, he could be holding this for an investment for 15 years down the road, 20 years down the road. That's where I have my issue with it. It's not what the city wants, but it's his property. He can have that right to do that.
The question is this better for the community, and it outweighs the individual's rights to continue to possess the property?
See, that's where it's a fine
not-
line.
it's not-
It's not holding up an entire interstate for, hundreds of thousands of people.
Just to be
It's
clear,
just Woodstock wants.
we have no reason to believe you will not prevail in court. That the reasons that the city wants to take it is sufficient in the eyes of the court and the law that we can take it for parking, so we can construct a parking lot. You're also not taking a home. You're not taking an existing business. You are taking a vacant parcel of land that currently is next to the square as well. You have to take that in consideration. So the question is this better off for the community by us taking this parcel? Whether we all respect individual property rights. It's a key part of our nation, our country, and our belief system. But at the end of the day, there's been another concept that's come up too, is that the community's needs sometimes outweighs the rights of the individual. And I think Ruth would tell me this is one of those where if in your discretion you believe that qualifies, taking possession of a vacant lot to turn it into a parking lot that benefits the community, where we all know that there are parking needs there, is going to prevail in the court system. You are going to be successful in securing this.
And that the appropriateness of the action to me is also tied into the legal opinion that this passes muster in the process in a court of law, okay, based upon the laws that are those federal laws or state laws, Ruth?
Well, both.
Okay, so that that we're
there's
meeting
due
state and
process.
federal law requirements to consider this infrequent approach or step, not approach, step on this particular parcel.
The sort of I don't have a political opinion. Is a legal matter. One of the other elements is that it's in the TIF district and it's in pursuance of the TIF plan. So that's also an element a court would likely
Thank you.
consider.
Melissa?
Has the landowner proposed anything for that?
So at the risk of encroaching in any way, shape, or form on the NDA, we can't discuss that in open session. Okay. If we want to discuss that in executive session, I'm willing to consider doing that. But that's part of the requirements. Yes, Bob.
Yeah, I would like to suggest to you, having had experience, we had a unit of county government take land from us in eminent domain, and but we started out negotiating, and our accountant advised us not stop negotiating let them take it in eminent domain because there's substantial tax advantages for you to let them take the land in eminent domain as opposed to selling it to them. So that may also be a reason that they need it might be advantageous for them for us to initiate the process.
I don't know if we should be speculating on any of
We
that.
shouldn't be, but I'm giving you there's much more to this eminent domain from both parties than what you're seeing here at the council level, from my experience.
So I'm willing to go into an executive session, even if it's just to avoid the NDA, to talk about things that are appropriate in a confidential setting related to the deal, so that council is fully informed. And then we can exit, and we will either vote on this or defer it to time specific. Okay, that's an action to be taken in public. Okay, but I think it warrants, even if it's somewhat brief, a discussion in executive session, not about the appropriateness of eminent domain. That's not the discussion. The discussion is the details related to a purchase of real property, so that you all understand kind of where things stand as of 5 o'clock tonight. I think that would be appropriate. All right. So I would suggest that Ruth, do we need a motion to defer this to the end of the meeting, or can I just move it as the chair and we cover the other items?
I think you probably ought to vote on it, just moving it, just since you've already approved the agenda and have been working on it.
Okay. So the motion would be to move it to, how would I describe specifically where we're moving it to?
Just following future
following
agenda
or
items.
prior to future agendas?
And with being clear that there may be action, if anyone's here for that or
There may
watching
be.
on TV, there may be action on. There may yet be a vote on
On the
this,
item.
but it doesn't. Then nobody else has to sit around and wait for the rest of the meeting to
Okay.
finish.
Very well. So, council, I would entertain a motion to move item D3, an item for action this evening.
D2.
I'm sorry, D2, thank you. An item for action this evening, which is an ordinance, eminent domain, 101 to 109 South Jefferson Street, to move this item on this evening's agenda to immediately before item Roman numeral 6, future agenda items, with the expressed knowledge that at that time that item may be voted upon for action or deferred to time specific. Is there a motion to approve moving this item?
I move.
Motion by Councilman Seeger. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Neerman. There's a motion to move this item to just prior to item Roman numeral 6, future agenda items. Council, any questions on the motion before us? Members of the public, any questions on the motion before us? There's a motion to move item D2 to later in the meeting. Hearing no questions from members of the public, we have a motion by Councilman Seeger, second by Councilman Neerman. There's a motion to move item D2 to just prior to Roman numerals item 6, future agenda items. Jane, please call the roll on the motion before us.
Councilman Neerman.
Yes.
Councilman Segers.
Yes.
Councilwoman Ziemba.
Yes.
Councilman Flynn.
Yes.
Councilwoman McMahon.
Yes.
Mayor Turner.
Yes, that item passes unanimously. There, item D2 is moved to later in the meeting. At this time, we'll move to the next item on this evening's agenda, which is a discussion item, transmittal of the FY 25-26 to FY 34-35 Capital Improvement Program. Roscoe.
Thank you, Mayor. I know this is something you've all been waiting for when you came back. So it is in the Dropbox. I want to make sure I thank city staff, our executive directors, department directors, the whole team. This is a massive team effort for us to look at all the different projects and all the different things that the city needs to be accomplishing at the capital level and to forward those for your consideration. This will be discussed at a future council budget workshop where we'll walk you through the plan. Overall, though, the plan is submitted to you is $194.5 million in revenues, including transfers. It will finance about $186.9 million in spending over the 10-year period. There are a lot of revenues that go to make that work. The home rule sales tax is a significant contributor, as well as water and sewer CIP. You'll see a lot of our challenges we've included funding for. We have the Route 47 improvements funded, EPA mandates for phosphorus and lead service lines. We still don't know what the cost will be for PFAS, PFAS, so there aren't numbers in there as of yet. We have a lot of different grants that are coming online, and we have matching funds in order to support those. Opera House continues, Rec Center, Raffle Road, the Splash Pad, a future bike path. Overall, in the 10-year period, we anticipate about $9.9 million funding coming in from grants. If you were to include the current fiscal year, you're looking at around $14 million in grants in total. Streets will continue to be the largest area of the CIP, with $57 million programmed over the next 10 years. So we look forward to sitting down with council at future budget workshop, reviewing that. If you have questions in the meantime or you would like to come and meet with us, we are always excited to talk about planning documents. Yes, Bob.
I'm embarrassed to admit this, but I've been on the council for 3+ years, 3.5 years, and there are things that show up not in the CIP budget, but things we're purchasing that were approved in a CIP budget that I don't think I was ever involved in approving.
Okay.
And I'm guessing I've asked you about it, and it's been in prior councils a long time ago, a long time CIP budget approval. So maybe for the benefit of not only me, but anybody else that wasn't willing to admit, could you briefly go through the process? Who's deciding on the CIP?
It is
Items. You know.
It's a team effort. So the department heads, their staff, our executive directors work together to identify all the projects. There are carryovers from year to year. So sometimes it's something council's already committed to. So now you're looking at, let's say, a 3 or 5 year period. A good example there, we outline all of our debt payments in the CIP, and the debt payments are already obligated spending for that. So they will submit to us narratives and project requests for the various different funds, for the 7 different funds that we then analyze and look at, and we make determinations about how we're going to balance the CIP. So unfortunately, you will see in there that we do have an unfunded section for both the water and sewer fund as well as for the general fund CIP. Those are projects that we do think have some value to the community, but they didn't rise to the level where with the available funding, we were able to find funding so we could move those projects forward.
So does the council have input, have any final say with regards to what projects are getting funded and which ones aren't?
Council has absolute final say about what projects get funded and what projects don't. We gave you our recommendation.
Right.
Ultimately, you can come back to us and say, no, we really feel like these projects. I'll give you an example. The easiest ones would be you find something in the unfunded that you feel like is really important. You come to us and say, we really want to see you integrate that in the plan, and we want it in a particular year, let's say. Well, then the challenge becomes we got to take something out, or we got to delay something, right, to make it work. So the idea is we always bring to you balanced spending plans, so that way if you want to make changes to the plan, we feel like we need to bring it back in balance. And in order to do that is usually delay something else or put something else in unfunded.
Okay, for example, a hypothetical scenario. We don't get enough of our roads repaired as the original 5-year plan called for.
Sure.
So we can take something fun out and move that to roads. Something that was funded, that was fun or nice, and move that to road repairs.
Yeah, I would only caution you that if we have a contractual commitment or I can't guarantee you that we can touch every item that's in there. We would need to let you know what the consequences are for a given item. So, and you might not get dollar for dollar because let's say there's a grant, so there's matching funds that are coming from that. You're not going to get the grant, so really you're not going to be able to put that total dollar amount into roads if that was what your objective was.
I got that, and only hypothetically now. Again, it might be a scenario where it might only be an expense that hypothetically was not funded by a grant, not contractually obligated.
Sure.
And could we also redesignate funded items with no contractual obligation and no grant money associated with it? could we also redesignate those to say infrastructure capital reserves
Yeah, you could completely delay it, and you want to hold on to the cash in essence to put
for
into reserves.
infrastructure capital reserves? Okay, thank you.
So I would suggest that as we go, so we will have a budget workshop where we get together and discuss the CIP. Jane has shot some preliminary dates to me, and we'll be sharing that, or to you all, I think, as well, right, Jane? No, they don't have them yet? Okay. So we will be getting those out here in the next 1 to 2 days, so that you've got, did you see your smirk at me? Right there. Sorry, did I say that out loud?
I'm right.
Are you saying it's sat in somebody's inbox for a day or two? Okay.
You smelled
So we'll be getting the dates to council for these meetings, proposed meetings in mid-February. Okay. Any other questions or comments on the CIP transmittal?
Can I add one quick thing?
Yes.
It'll be put on the website tomorrow morning for the public's review and input, and then certainly they can come and speak to the council at any point.
Okay. Good point. Thank you, Paul. All right. Any other council comments or questions on this? All right. Very well. That takes us, so as we go down the agenda, as any member of council is allowed to do, we can call as the chair is allowed to do, I can call an executive session with council's consideration, and I am making, I'm asking for a motion for us to, I'm asking for a motion, right, Ruth? Or,
That's right.
Okay. I'm asking for a motion from member of council to move into executive session for the purchase of real property under the Open Meetings Act 5 ILCS 120/2C5, meetings where the purchase or lease of real property for the use of the public body is being considered, including meetings held for the purpose of discussing whether a particular parcel should be acquired. I think it is appropriate for us to go into executive session, and a motion to do so for those reasons under that Open Meetings Act would be appropriate.
So moved.
Motion by Councilwoman McMahon. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Neerman. There's a motion to move into executive session. Council, any questions on the motion before us? Members of the public, any questions on the motion before us? It is a motion to move into executive session to discuss the purchase of real property under Open Meetings Act 5 ILCS 120/2C5. No questions from members from council or members of the public. Jane, we have a motion to move into executive session. Please call the roll on the motion before us.
Councilman Segers.
Yes.
Councilwoman Ziemba.
Yes.
Councilman Flynn.
Yes.
Councilwoman McMahon.
Yes.
Councilman Neerman.
Yes.
Mayor Turner.
Yes. That item passes unanimously. We are adjourned, or I'm sorry, we are recessed or adjourned.
Adjourning to executive
Adjourning
session.
to executive session at 8:56 p.m.